Okay. Now that we've got our intro issue all set up, welcome to the NPL podcast. There's a little technical confusion on the last pod on whether or not you guys would be able to hear that new intro music. It played fine through Spotify, but not through YouTube, sadly. Where, of course, people want to come and see the video, the hot action, the hot takes. So, I'm glad there's the Patty Mahomes song. I think we might stick with that one for a little while. And I'm sure Mr. T Mello and the TDs and double D's, with I'm sure a name pending to change, would agree to really love. So we're gonna start off at the same things as we did last time. We've got the old to-do list up there. We've got a couple new little pieces on there. I'm gonna focus a little bit around the old Bulldogs and his Texans. He's a big fan of that team. As well, I will be doing a little bit of a mock draft and where I personally see where teams may be able to benefit off of their draft choices. Got my little list here. One team was able to get a bit of a head start on it there yesterday, gave them some inside deets, but nothing that wouldn't be shown here. So yeah, we'll kind of get into it. First thing foremost, we'll kind of start up with the with the trades, drops, and ads. Still, we haven't activated the ads yet. It's still going to be another 2 weeks away or so. I think it just kind of keeps the league in a little bit of check, especially with how active at least half the league is when it comes with doing swap rounds. So ads will be activated, therefore, the week of, or at least after our draft. So we will be on the 4th, 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to assume, I think I might either do probably a Monday morning just to keep it fair. It should open it up completely to any free agents that are on there that we haven't been able to add yet. And we'll go into discussions next year if we want to just have it open right after the season ends or not, or just give a time frame like this as before. So basically just trades, drops. We have not had a trade go through since April 5th. A lot of talks from what I've heard. A lot. I will go into the other rumor section of this, but I think there may be a little bit of caution when it comes to deciding whether or not you want to make a move. A lot of draft pick talks, that's for sure, and starting running backs. So I'll even go through like maybe my own process when I'm sitting there and looking at something that I might send somebody, or say like a big boomer bust trade I think could help, but then I sit there and like after gaining a little bit of intel from other casts or news pieces like articles, how it may not be that beneficial to really pull off that offer. So for drops, clean and simple, we've only got 3, and it's nothing too exciting. Chris Rodriguez was released by the TDs and double Ds. He's a running back that was pretty high up on my draft board from our initial draft. He led his school in all-time rushing yards and can play as a 3-down back with the ability to catch passes. But his only problem is that he's on a team that has 5 other running backs and just signed Austin Eckler. So only 1 year in the league, an interesting prospect, but he's not really great until he goes to another team or everyone gets hurt. And that's going to be the problem with looking at a lot of people's benches right now. There's a lot of cut candidates that you may look at right now that could have value, and they probably don't. And I'm talking to you, Alan Lazard. You have 0 value. None. The amount of rookie wide receivers that are coming out into this draft will definitely surpass him. You're looking at each team right now is probably looking at about, I would imagine, 3 to 4 players that they could possibly cut. You have a wide receiver that's a 2 or 3 right now, who's gonna drop back to a 3 or a 4, maybe even a 5. A tight end that's a 2, that's a 3 or a 4, not good. So I'm expecting to see, even after our draft, the undrafted free agents of our draft, not so much the NFL one, will make a big impact as well on your rosters and how you change, including your taxi squad. 3 spots right there where if you see a rookie that you think you can really stash for a year that you're not going to use, slide them right into that spot. The other 2 drops were just myself. Just yesterday, actually. Chase Claypool and Keyshawn Booty, a.k.a. Kayla Fortenberry. These 2 guys I do not recommend on going after, actually less than Rodriguez. I took the gamble on Claypool, hoping that he was going to pull off year 1 magic. And even with Miami, he couldn't do it. And he's yet to latch onto a team. He's a perfect candidate to be a wide receiver 4 or 5, which is useless in this. And he also has just received an offer from the Saskatchewan Roughriders of the CFL. So if he can't make the NFL or the NPL, good luck in the CFL, buddy. Get ready to learn Canadianese. Keyshawn Booty, a.k.a. Kayla Fortenberry, did a lot of gambling when he wasn't allowed to, apparently. 19, 20, being a gambling boy in the U.S., bad boy, especially depending on your state. There has been no news on this guy. Like, nothing. I've been waiting 3 months for something. He's only 22, so that's an interesting piece there. But the Patriots also own, as of right now, draft spot number 3, which they have said they are willing to drop down from. He could be a guy that falls pretty far back on that depth chart. I don't really see him gaining too much traction there at all anymore. And those are just 2 of, honestly, like maybe 2 or 3 more guys I could cut. So really kind of take a gander at your own teams and see who really is worth the spot. There may be somebody else out there that would want to take a shot on that player, but at the end of the day, I mean, the value for it doesn't even make sense sometimes to trade that wonky 3rd-round pick for an older player, because that 3rd-round pick could be somebody that's at least a wide receiver 3 or 4. So why go after an older guy that's struggling to get on a team that would be like a 4 or 5? So plan up on those trade offers for the dudes that you should cut. And honestly, you might as well just do it now. Clear up that roster. Give yourself a vision on what you want your team to look like before going into the draft day. You don't want to go into the draft with Al Lazard on your team. Nobody wants him, by the way. If you don't want to go into the draft with Al Lazard on your team and him manipulate your vision or view on how you go into the draft, right? You're going into it and you're like, this is how many wide receivers I have. Do I need to draft another one? When you have Al Lazard, yes, you do. Get his ass out of there. And there are other wide receivers, running backs, all that out there. They're the same way, right? Someone's got Deneric Prince on their team. See you later, buddy. Nakeem Westbrook-Ikhine. See you later, buddy. You don't need these guys. Absolutely junk. You're going to find better in this coming draft. It's just how it is for the NFL. If you don't hit in a year or 2, probably not going to do it, right? Even Chase, like Claypool here, killed it first year. Like, this guy was sitting down in a room with some legends and talking about how he's going to be a top 3 wide receiver in the league. This guy just got cut from the root of all Eagle. He's going to Saskatchewan. Bye. Now, Patty Mahomes. Patty Mahomes.
It's my quarterback.
Not mine. He ain't mine.
It's my quarterback.
That is TD and Double D's quarterback. But could that be somebody else's?
It's my quarterback.
This guy has been in a multitude of trade offers right now. I couldn't even begin to imagine the amount of offers. It makes the scene of what the draft could go out to be for the first couple picks a little more telling, I think. My assumption is that we will see Mr. Mahomes moved either just before or during our draft. For what? I'm not legally obliged to mention. But it would, I imagine, be a decent haul for the TDs and double Ds. It would also, I would think, move them into a bit more of a contending state, but at the same time, when you only have one quarterback and you need two in this league, you better hope that these other draft picks really hit. So keep an eye out. And if you're interested as well and have some wealth, maybe make an attempt over to TD and double Ds and take a little gander at a shot at Mr. Mahomes. I know of one team that is heavily involved in trade talks for him. But if you think that you could use the arguably number one quarterback in the league and have the assets for it, aka starting players or high picks, because that's what he's worth. He is a starting player caliber type player. Then take a shot. Go for it. Now, just remember, a trade as big as this might put your own team into some bit of a deficit as well. Maybe an early decline in some other positions. You just got to kind of make sure you don't lose too much in this deal and don't make it too wild of a deal. When you're trading with players as big as this, and it goes along the lines of like a Josh Allen who won't be moved and a Jalen Hurts who won't be moved, then you're talking like to at least some of those other owners, something that's just not even achievable. But doesn't mean no player's not ever not tradable. If Wayne Gretzky got traded, anybody can get moved. So keep an eye out there for Pat Mahomes. My assumption, what I would look at, high need quarterback teams that are in more of a contending status. Don't forget that age last time I talked about him. He's a little spring chicken. All right, even Allen and Hurts, Burrow, all these other guys are a couple years younger than him now. And Pat Mahomes, I have to go back and take a full gander here again. But I'm pretty sure we talked about him not having the best of years last year. Doesn't mean he's not contending up to be a top 3, number 1 guy. But watch how much you're giving out for him and make sure you're in a winning, at least a caliber team. We will take a little bit of a right turn here before we hit up the Bulldogs and his situation again. I wanted to talk about this massive league fine. And this is breaking news. So the league has fined Wiener69 This guy right here. You guys may know him. He comes and goes as he pleases. He ripped me off for Saquon and Devontae last year. Other than that, he's fairly quiet, but he comes in with words of affirmation every now and then, which I think is pretty beneficial. So, this just in. The league is fined Wiener 69, the league maximum of tree 50. This is not real, by the way, but for horse use of language. This guy, straight to jail. All right. We're all just trying to be, we're all just trying to be fun, man.
It's only a game. Why you have to be mad?
We're just trying to have fun, man. And sadly, 8 to the Dizzle supports this kind of stuff. The league will not stand for this nonsense. We will. There's not enough trash talk, okay? We got to spice it up a little bit here, so. Wien, pay your league dues. There's a little cry face for him. Now, leading into that, as already posted, $10 per. That was voted upon the most 7 out of 12. So pretty even, I think. The votes were split a little bit more than the others. So yeah, $10. Easy peasy cheesy. The only reason why we didn't start with a cost last year was because of this being the second time that we've started this. The first time was a failure after the full season was done. This is much more successful, and now we can initiate something on there to just give it a little more spice for your work that you're putting into this. As well, going into the off season and into the new season, performance reviews will be done towards the general managers. As in all my leagues, and some of you may not be in all of them, I look for activity in my more important ones, such as this. Such as this. Activity is very important. We love to see the chat going. We love to see the trade offers going. And just always know that the commish does not give a flying fuck that you paid your fee into the league. You will be cut, you will be replaced, and you will be giving your money back. Because at the end of the day, 10 to 20 bucks, who gives a shit? And the commish always, don't forget, always has a backup plan. I'm like the Vince McMahon of this shit, bitch. I've always got somebody else ready. There's always somebody else right behind you, ready to take your league spot. So appreciate it. Enjoy it. As you've already seen in this league, we've had a couple replacements, and it has benefited the league. We know who the ones are in here that may be a little more quieter, which is fine. And we know the ones here that don't look to do moves, which is fine. But we do look to see the activity on the app and in the league. So keep it up for obviously all the good people that are in there. And for the 1 or 2 people that are a little more missing in action and who may not take it as, maybe as serious, if the word that you want to use is, which is fine and fair enough. Everyone can take fantasy at different levels. But I try to make mine as fun as can be. With stuff just like this podcast, trophies, photo shoots, all that business. And it zaps from it when you come in as sadly a little bit more than a lesser of a casual for a league. So heads up, again, majority doing great. Really psyched about this league, and I wouldn't be investing as much time into it if I wasn't getting that kind of feedback back to me. So thank you to the stellar GMs out there. Now, to the Bulldogs and Texans. This is still a situation. I haven't been able to take a gander at the value of a Nico Collins or a Tank Dell or a Dalton Schultz right now. I'll leave Joe Mixon out of it for right now because I bully up Mr. Bowens too much in Marface. So he's a running back. We'll stick to the guys catching the ball right now. And that's not to forget about Stephon Diggs. This team has a boatload of talent, as stated before. A great quarterback, good running back, awesome wide receivers, nice tight end. LOL. But it's too much to have if you've got multiple pieces on the team. And you've seen teams like Marface. You have to make some moves. You see a team like Play Action had to as well. These are teams that had an abundance of a player or of players on a team. Marface was Chicago bound. This guy's a Chi-Town boy. Play Action right to the brim when it comes to Ravens. But even though maybe it could help within a couple of weeks, maybe I'd say 4 or 5 weeks of the season, if all those players pop off at once, again, one ball in the field, then great. But it's just not going to work in this. It's not like, you could say for hockey, if you wanted to own all the Toronto Maple Leafs, then yeah, sure, you're probably going to get a lot of points. But for football, it ain't going to happen. There ain't no secondary assists out here. Dalton Schultz ain't going to get a point because Stephon Diggs had a 60-yard TD. The Bulldogs have to make a move. The Bulldogs are one of the most interesting teams in the league, right beside TDs because of ownership problems. We're talking Arizona Coyote style, and not because of the current. The current general managers have been fantastic and some of the greater additions that we've had in the NPL. And it was too bad that we weren't able to get them on right away. But the messes that they've had to clean up, it's been pretty dirty. So keep an eye if you're needing a wide receiver. Make sure to head over to the Bulldogs. Just because he has 3 of them doesn't really negate the value of them. But for his sake, he's got to move one of those guys at least before draft. If you're a team that's looking to take the shot at a wide receiver around the ages of 23 to 25 with fantastic stats, with a great young quarterback, head that way. It'll be risky for 1 year this year because we don't know how Stephon's going to fit into this situation, and we know though that he only has 1 more year to go. You heard that right. We know, though, that he only has 1 year to go. Breaking news. Now a wrapper. Bulldogs and the Texans. We will see within the next 14 days if a move gets made. And I will throw in this one little cliffhanger too. This one little piece to note. La resistance to doing a move like that. Maybe he gets lucky and for some reason the Texans decide to move one of those guys. And one of those guys would either be Collins or Dell. There's really no other one. I wouldn't bank on it. It's a far reach. But there's a very slim chance. If I'm the Bulldogs, one of those players are hitting another roster within the next week. NPL mock draft. We're going to shoot over to the little board here. And don't mind if you hear any purring. That's not me. It's the cat. And that's not to negate my happiness, okay? I, of course, would purr as well if I could. So, ignore this here. As well, ignore this here. This is not in line, okay? This is just mock draft central over here. With saying that, here's another little gander here at our first couple picks. The ranking, again, I wouldn't even be bothered with that. Could be talking about it next year. It's definitely not the rookie ranking. 15, 18, 30, 38, 50. I'll try to explain a little bit more. For some reason, you are a Spotify guy, which is crazy to me. But here's just kind of the overall view of it. You can see a back and forth, wide receiver, QB, wide receiver, QB. And it's going to be like that through most of this draft. You really don't lose, to be honest. It's just filling what your need is. If you need a wide receiver, this is like the best draft you could probably have. Like if we're talking talent-wise in years, NFL analysts are saying this is top tier for drafts. Like you couldn't get that much better between this and the quarterbacks. Like you got years where the best thing coming out is Carson Wentz and Marcus Mariota. Our first league rookie draft is so filled with talent. It's not like, let's say, even last year. Last year you're sitting there and you're going, oh, do I want C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young? And this is the only option I have, and I need a quarterback. I'm going to have to, risk up most of my team to go and find a quarterback somewhere else or trade up for one of these guys. If you have a pick in the first 2 rounds, you're going to get a player you like. There's no doubt about that. Damn, getting all grainy here. My little sip of orange juice. Get me all fucked up. All right. So even though these right here, it's kind of like showing the teams here and what the rosters are. These are not lined up to the pick. So again, don't worry about that. Ignore that part. These right here, though, where you see these pick points, that is where these teams that have traded for these picks are standing. It doesn't show the team. I wish they did make it a little bit easier for it, but we'll take what we got. You guys know where you are, and I'll just kind of explain through, again, my thought process of it. Just kind of quickly. I'm not going to dive into too much. I don't need to help you. The hell? You want to go ahead and let a guy like Jane Daniels drop down to me? Sure. You want to let Romo Dunze, Drake May come to me? Let it happen. See what happens, buddy. Run this league. All right? I'll run this league 2 times. Winning and in actuality. So let me just open up my iPhone 15 Plus. Head over to my notes section here. I don't have anything written down for each of these players. And the reasons why. So I'd have to just give you kind of like short form explanations on these players and how they could help by fitting into a team. Because let's face it, we're at 31 minutes right now, so I can make this an hour and a half, but we'll keep it kind of chill. We're starting off number 1, as any place would. We know that is TDs, double Ds. Mr. Tyler. This one's not too super tough, okay? This one's going to be pretty straight down the line on whether or not this guy does move, arguably the number 1 QB or not. This guy should be going one way only, because he could end up having only one quarterback by the time this draft hits that's actually starting, or no quarterbacks.
It's my quarterback.
I think number 1's got to do what number 1's got to do. I'm putting Caleb Williams on the first pick. And the reason why is because it's the most important position. The one that gets you that you need to get you the consecutive points every week. There's going to be a lot of pieces saying that's risky, but this is clear cut the number 1 quarterback no matter what. If he was to move down a couple picks, you can change it up. But number 1 quarterback, need those points, need to have 2 starters. And if he does do this trade, if there is a trade and ends up with none, then it has to be this. It doesn't matter about Maserati Marv at that point, because you're fucked. And it's not like you're just taking a whole season with no quarterback. You're starting some motherfuckers, or you're getting fined $350. So, Caleb Williams. And now this doesn't mean it's the end of the line for Mr. T. Mello. And we'll get to that as we kind of go through this here. At number 2, I didn't think it was too difficult for this one. Is another team that does need a quarterback, but it's another team that could use quite a few pieces. And if the deal is done right, which I think he has a possibility of doing, of flipping someone like a Collins or a Dell, not Adele the singer, but Tank Dell, and by the way, his real name is Nathaniel, so just be careful, then that means to me he should be going for a quarterback with one of those trades. Therefore, he gives up a wide receiver, which opens up a starting spot, and he picks Maserati Marv. Arguably the best player in the draft. Talent-wise. There's a lot of pieces needed, but you take the best player in the draft. That's him. He's not a quarterback, which may be an important piece over there, but if moves are done right by the Bulldogs, you move one of those wide receivers you got now, you bulked up on, get more of a middleweight quarterback out there, maybe another pick back. I know there could be something interesting that happens here where, let's say, I'm throwing this one out here in the air, okay? Maybe you head towards a team like 8 to the Dizzo, who has himself a veteran guy that gets you some points this year. Right here, we go to 8 to the Dizzo. He's got CJ Stroud and Kyler Murray. He's laughing. You got this guy right here, though, sitting there chilling. Mr. Geno Smith. And I think Geno Smith is an interesting piece for a team like the Bulldogs to acquire. Another one that could be a little interesting. Derek Carr, Mr. Owen squad. I would imagine he'd be available, as well as Brissett. As of right now, today, he is the starter for New England. Maybe he's Denchworth. Denchworth's got Matt Stafford, Trevor Lawrence, Bryce Young. Basically, the only guy that's 100% secured right now is Trevor Lawrence. And that's kind of what I'm thinking right there. Now, this just in. Breaking news. We've just had a couple trades come in. And now this will not affect, from what I'm seeing right now, the information I'm getting right now, this is not going to affect the current draft rankings for at least the first round. We'll go by each of them here. The first trade. Wow, look at those, eh? The first trade that came through. It's a doozy, and this does include Patrick Mahomes. This just in. TDs and double Ds has traded quarterback Patrick Mahomes, tight end Darren Waller, and running back Zach Evans to play action Jackson for wide receiver Tyreek Hill, running back Josh Jacobs, quarterback Daniel Jones, and then a 2024 second round draft pick and a 2025 second round draft pick. Now I'll place that 2024 pick, if that is the Marshmallow pick, that should be 2.09. As I'll say right now, no trade is 100% completed until those draft picks are made. You can't say that there's a winner until the draft pick is completed. And at the end of the day as well, there is no real winners. But here's the deal here. This is a major move for play action. Play action acquires a number one quarterback with already holding Lamar Jackson on roster. They did have to give up Josh Jacobs, starting running back. It'll be his first year out in Green Bay. He did sign a contract there, though, for a little bit. I think it's about 3 years. He is a great talent. And I think a huge addition towards TD. But we'll start with the play action side here. Play action's roster, even after doing a deal like this, is he was heavily running back involved, let's just say. He keeps 2 starting running backs with Alvin Kamara and Derrick Henry, yet they are older. This puts him into a 100% win now consensus. This is all in. Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, you got Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. Here it is, David Njoku, and then on flex, Zach Moss, DeAndre Hopkins. There is no need then for him to have Daniel Jones. No need. It's a good swap back and forth. Quarterback wise here, it keeps it so that TD still has a viable option to use this season while giving up arguably one of the best fantasy players out there. Josh Jacobs is right away a starting running back for TD and Double Ds. And we'll have to explain more so why that is with the other trade that happened. But that is the new starting running back for TD Double Ds. The more interesting part here would be the Darren Waller, Tyreek Hill area. Again, talking about how Josh Jacobs and Patrick Mahomes are the main pieces here. Tyreek Hill is a player that is a crazy good threat. Crazy good player. He is looking at a year or two, and he's retired. He announced that when he signed his contract with Miami, he only has 2 years left on his deal. He's out of there, and he's retiring from the NFL. So for TD's Double D's to make this move to bring in a wide receiver knowing he only has 2 years left, you can only assume that this guy is going to be flipped. He's got young wideouts right now. He's got no need. He needed a running back. We'll say that for sure. He needed another running back. But that doesn't help him. He gets another draft pick. Unless you know what you're drafting, though, at the end of the day, it's what's going to come down to. So the eyes are going to be on TD for sure, and I will be doing a live cast during the draft as well. But big eyes on him with acquiring another pick. But yeah, Tyreek Hill, we're looking at a 2-year gap here, and I expect him to be moved again to another contending team. Watch out for guys like Marface, guys like Josh Kosh, even Root of Eagle. Like, you're looking at a couple teams that would be, I'm sure, interested in him, and you could get a surprising move done here. The other pieces here, sorry, I did forget about Mr. Waller. He did as well talk about retiring. So there is a possibility we do see him flip as well. Not retiring right now, but a year from now, with the Giants not putting any pressure on him to make that decision. So keep an eye out for that guy. Zach Evans won't talk too much about here. He's the backup right now of the LA Rams. We don't know. The Rams situation for running back is a little interesting, but he's a number 2 guy there for right now. So nice young piece. Obviously, the focal point's just Mahomes. That's just it. The rest of his starting lineup is looking pretty good over there. He did have to give up that second-round pick that would have turned out to be a wide receiver, which is a need for play action. Michael Pittman leads the cast. After that, we see quite a drop-off with 13% starters, Michael Wilson and Darnell Mooney, who are not confirmed to be number 1 guys right now, and DeAndre Hopkins, who is, up there himself at 31, with Will Levis, who is a questionable quarterback, throwing to him. They need a wide receiver, and they'll have to figure that one out pretty quick. With no draft capital this year, and a wide receiver-heavy draft, it's possible to see a move from last to next year's draft to this year, or having to move one of the running backs that he has for another wide receiver. Tyreek Hill's a massive gap to have there, but with a 0.5 PPR, points per reception league, wide receivers do matter. So it's a quick synopsis there on that deal being done there. Again, we won't see much coming to fruition until this pick is dealt and possibly Tyreek Hill is moved. But for now, Patrick Mahomes, the first big-name quarterback, has been moved for the league. So congratulations to the boys. The other trade that is now pending as well. It's apparently doesn't get a big viewership like the other one here. We got the Bulldogs, and again, TD double Ds, and this is why I wanted to wait and talk about the running back situation. Bulldogs make a big move here. Big move. They sacrifice a draft pick. That is should be number 2.04, if I'm not wrong, with Rashad Bateman, A.J. Dillon, and then receiving a 2025 third, which is most likely going to be high, let's be honest, for Isaiah Pacheco and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Rashad Bateman ain't really too much shit, to be honest. We'll start with that one. He ain't done much. We don't know if he's going to do much. It all depends on what Lamar does. A.J. Dillon is a big addition here for TDs. It's giving them the running back duo handcuff for Green Bay, which is a big security piece when it comes to Jordan Love and the Green Bay offense. So you'd mark yourself down as thinking that even though they lost Pacheco, they've gained a good security piece still within Green Bay between these two deals, getting Josh Jacobs and A.J. Dillon. They did have to give up Pacheco. He is younger. He is on Kansas City. But I would imagine the value of Dillon and Jacobs together would be more than Pacheco and Edwards-Helaire for his team. Speaking strictly for TDs. And again, we will have to see what this other second rounder goes for. I'll say this right now. You can only have so many draft picks at the end of the day. And this is what I said before. So unless TDs ain't listening to this shit, all right, you're not going to make the playoffs and win with 23-year-old players.
Playoffs?
All right? No playoffs.
Playoffs?
Like, you're going to need a lot of warm-up here. We're talking about practice.
I mean, listen, we talking about practice. Not a game. We talking about practice.
They're going to need a lot of help over there at this rate. TDs is walking in with Daniel Jones, Gardner Minshew, Mike Williams is busted as shit. Jerome Ford is a backup to a guy with a completely busted leg. Dallas Goedert is 29 years old as a tight end. Christian Kirk isn't 100% on his job. Elijah Moore is a third wide receiver on a team that has already just re-signed Jerry Jeudy and has Amari Cooper. Josh Downs is number 2 wide receiver behind Pittman. You've got Alexander Mattison, who isn't confirmed as a starting running back at all. And then now Josh Jacobs. So this draft, either all these picks are going to be moved or this draft needs to be like the best draft ever. Because to bring in Tyreek Hill at the same time, like, and Josh Jacobs, there's not really any, there's no real like a rhythm or rhyme to the team right now for TDs. These trades at the same time don't mesh together. They're big trades, but other than the Dillon and the Jacobs part, it doesn't make any sense to acquire 2 second-round picks with Tyreek Hill when you're not winning right now. You don't have a solid number 1 quarterback. Daniel Jones was hurt all last year. Gardner Minshew isn't even confirmed to be the Raiders' starting QB. So where are you going? It's a tantalizing team. Again, the team wasn't given the best position, but if we want to go back in time a little bit, we can go back to the conversation with former Gibbs trade. Yeah, that was the Jahmyr Gibbs days. That was a probably will stand as one of the worst trades in our league history. So you got to take your time on these deals, man. Really take a look at your team, as I was talking about earlier before these trades are done when it comes into the draft day. You sort your team out before that draft hits so you know what you're really going for. TDs has a big thing to clean up here. Now to Bartlett. the Bulldogs. I find like this is a decent haul for them. They had a couple second-round picks. Rashad isn't going to do much for them. They've got a good set of wide receivers, which, again, one of them still has to be moved. He didn't really need him. AJ wasn't. You thought maybe there's a chance for him to be a starter. He didn't turn into it. So you pull a starting running back and his backup and still manage to get a third rounder for next year. Pretty good. It really changes the team style for Bartlett there. Going into it knowing that he's still needed a quarterback, but made a big move there to secure himself 2 starting running backs for sure, keeping one of his better backups in Brian Robinson. And still having his good wide receivers. It's a solid bet to take. If you want to go back in it, technically, Isaiah Pacheco was dealt for 1.09. And months later, TD just dealt Pacheco plus for a backup running back, a third or fourth wide receiver, and a second-round pick. So that second-round pick better fucking hit big. Or that's just a failure, a mess. It's a mess. So these are the trades I just went through. Bye-bye, Patty.
It's my quarterback.
He's off to another team. I'll try and get through this first round here. I'll try and shotgun through some of them, what I feel, now that we're heading up towards an hour. Again, there's only so much you can have on Bartlett's Drive here. So I keep going with the process that I kind of had initially, and we'll see if I do change up anything or not. But I don't really think I will. So, other than maybe one, there may be one thing I might change at the end of this. But so number 3, this is old Nate Dogg. This is Generals, a fairly heavy set, well balanced team. I don't think that they need too much. Looking at their squad, you're seeing a team that is fairly balanced. Like Brock Purdy's out there. You've got Anthony Richardson and then Aaron Rodgers. So quarterback, we weren't really looking there too much. When it came down to wide receiver, Calvin Ridley, DJ Moore, Brandon Cooks, Cortland Sutton, Jameson Williams. So interesting pieces. Even Khalil Shakir, good pieces here. But I think they've got an opportunity to lock down what they need. And to me, it's going wide receiver, and it's going Malik Neighbors. I think Malik Neighbors, who is arguably up near Marvin Harrison, will be a huge fit for his team and really bump up those wide receiver numbers, because it's kind of the only position, at least at his spot now, unless he trades back, that makes sense. Going to number 4, we had Cam. He was a team that was riddled with injuries. Honestly, pretty unlucky, and he doesn't even really need to be at the draft position that he is. Running back, he's kind of set again. We're not really looking at running back at this spot. Not even tight end, which again, he's fine there. Doubled up there. Looking at wide receiver, Jalen Waddle, Jaden Reed, Justin Jefferson, Zay Flowers. So I don't really envision him taking a wide receiver with as much as he has. On bench, Rashid Shaheed. Quarterback, though, after Jordan Love, it goes Kirk Cousins. After him, it's Jimmy G and Aiden O'Connell. I think with knowing that his team only dropped down because of injuries, that this is a big chance for him to be able to select a quarterback up high. And with that, I think that he would take the shot at going after the Heisman winner, quarterback Jaden Daniels. Perfect fit for him. Doesn't need him right now. Gives him a chance to warm up with whatever team he goes on again. This could change within another week. Thursday's the NFL draft. He could totally change after that. But for now, I think that's the play for him. Jane Daniels. After that, we head towards number 5. That is Mr. Ben L33. He's got some swaps he needs to do. He ends up sitting with Joe Burrow and Jared Goff. Sticking with Will Levis as well. His wide receiver room, T. Higgins, Christian Watson, Tyler Lockett, Devontae Smith. With nothing really on the bench. Quarterback room between the Goff, Levis, and Burrow area. I don't see why you take one there. A tight end, he's got Sam Laporta. To me, it just makes sense that this would have to be the Rome area. Again, another guy that he'd probably be able to put him in right away. You get to see how Tyler Lockett does. Possibly move him into flex. Got Jacoby Myers as well, but it just beefs up that wide receiver room just in case something happens between Myers and Lockett. And even Higgins. Higgins could be traded. So that's something right there for him to keep an eye out for. At 6, it falls back over to Team Wieners. Team Wiener is a interesting squad, a good mixture of players here. It's pretty obvious going through that they are possibly in a rough quarterback situation. Baker Mayfield, number 1 guy. Then it goes Justin Herbert, who's banged up a little bit there. Lost a wide receiver. 2 wide receivers, actually. And his running back. So, interesting spot there for him. His tight end room looks okay. So I don't see why he'd really go for him there. At least Bowers right now. There's a possibility if he wanted to, he could pull the trigger, but he's got a lot of youth there. He's got some good pieces there. Wide receiver, Mike Evans, C.D. Lamb, George Pickens. And then after that, it kind of falls off with guys like Jake Bobo and Adam Thielen. So, between having the Baker Mayfield, Herbert, and then it's like Pickett, Tannehill. Honestly, it's a tough decision at this spot. But I almost, if I was him, knowing that he's at least good for another year, Quentin Johnson there too, I think I'd probably take the shot at selecting Drake May. Drake May just seems like it's the right fit for right now. I mean, if Tannehill, I think Tannehill can retire Michael White, Kyle Trask, it's just a lot of backups. He needs to be able to select a proper quarterback just in case a real third, and there's a chance that Drake May could be a third somewhere. Number 7. At a 7, I was a little mixed a bit on what to do with 7. Honestly, originally going through, I thought Odunze would make it down. And this is to Paris, Jigba and Paris. He's sitting here with a wicked setup of quarterbacks with Kyler Murray, C.J. Stroud, and Geno Smith. His tight end room is the most impressive in the entire league, with Trey McBride, Dalton Kincaid, Zach Ertz, Dawson Knox. It makes 0 sense to go after Brock Bowers. His wide receiver room, running back. Okay, running back, he goes Bijan, Chuba Hubbard. And you got Zach Charbonnet. So really, it's pretty good there. Antonio Gibson went up. Wide receiver, Garrett Wilson, Puka Nacua, Deebo Samuel, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. After that, Dontavian Wicks. To be honest, it's it's almost like he doesn't really need to draft much here. If anything, you could go for the best player and then use him to trade back. If I'm Jigba, knowing all this, I probably would just trade back anyways. There's not a ton of value or need that he needs here right now, and he could just gain more capital for the year after that. Or double down. You could take a guy like Deebo Samuel in a first-round pick and use him to get an even bigger wide receiver. That would be my suggestion, do something like that. Same thing with Nakua. Jackson Smith is worth close to a first-rounder. For this pick, I mean, if you're going to pick the best player in the draft, like it shows Brock Bowers, but it just doesn't make any sense to pick him right now. It just doesn't make too much sense because he's got so many. So you'd think he just has to go with the next best option there. Let's just say hypothetically he does make a move that sees Geno Smith move at 33. He could realistically take J.J. McCarthy. I think that seems like it's a pretty reasonable spot for him to go. He won't really need him. Kyler Murray is safe. CJ is great. And Geno Smith is a little older. So I maybe go that route. I think maybe quarterback there would be pretty good. Moving down to the combo of 8 and 9. These are both Denchworth FC. For Denchworth FC, they're a team that made it to the playoffs, but did so with some of the lowest amount of points for. Their quarterback room goes Trevor Lawrence, Bryce Young, Matt Stafford. Running back room goes Travis Etienne, James Cook, Zamir White, Kendra Miller, which is impressive on its own. Wide receivers Jordan Addison. Different scenario there. Still number 2. Different quarterback. Amon-Ra St. Brown, number 1, solid. Romeo Doubs. And then Rashee Racer Rice. He's got a lot of wide receivers, but not a lot of talent over there. And then when it comes down to tight end, Cade Otton and Luke Schoonmaker. So looking back at the last pick to this one and knowing there's back-to-back here, honestly for me, if I'm Denchworth and there's a chance that Brock Bowers is there, I'm taking that bitch. Cade Otton has a 19% start rate now. Schoon's a 3% starter. If Brock Bowers lands on a team, an impressive team, and takes over that number 1 tight end role, you're looking at like major numbers here that fill in around all those other spots you have. I like him there. Will he be there at that time? I don't know. This is my assumption. This is my mock on where I think players could go. And I think there is a chance that Bowers goes down. Initially, I had him around 5. I think he does have a chance to drop around 8. And if he does, it's a steal. But that's just because these other teams have needs that need to be filled or should be filled. So during the draft as well, I will be, like I said, recording. And I will do a comparison of it afterwards. But for right now, this is just our first rounder here. Now with the 1.9, you're left with a couple of interesting players here, especially wide receiver, and I think that's a need. After losing Rashee and having Jordan Addison as number 2 and Romeo Doubs as number 2, you're looking at a guy that Denchworth has already explained he does have interest towards, which is wide receiver Brian Thomas. The big number 2 guy from LSU, I think this right here just completely blows up the shape of what Denchworth looks like without these 2 players. Like you're taking in hopefully a number 1 tight end and maybe even a number 1 or 2 wide receiver. Ooh, just like that, huge improvement towards the team. The root of all evil. Under self-evaluation, I'm a very old team. I have some needs, especially when it comes around the running back area. I feel comfortable for tight end. Wide receiver room is very hurting. Knowing that all I have is this pick here, and then one more pick later on down the road, and just kind of seeing what my rooms look like here, My wide receivers are pretty old. I think for myself, I wasn't initially too much of a fan of Worthy, but I'd be a little bit of a hypocrite if I'm also not following what I said by taking the best available player. So I put myself out with Xavier Worthy right now. I've got Adams at the ripe age of 31. Cooper Kupp is 30. I do have a fairly well set wide receiver starting group, but my bench is bad. It somehow got worse than my running backs, so that's what I placed myself at. Number 11, the O Show, Brent Owens. Marface is a championship contending team. My number one rival, brother. It is fairly well set through most positions. We're taught running back, Mixon, Swift, Montgomery's there. We'll see how his role goes. Tight end, you got Mark Andrews with hopes of him staying healthy. Wide receiver is led by Jamar Chase and Chris Olave, who really needs a lot of help from Derek Carr. Brandon Ayuk is interesting because he could be a number one guy somewhere. We just don't know what team. And then Keenan Allen is the projected number one guy for the first quarterback of this draft. After the wide receiver room can get a little scary, we've got Michael Gallup not on a team. We've got Jalen Tolbert, who's like a number 3 or 4 on the team. Michael Thomas isn't on a team. Gabe Davis is a number 2. Keenan Allen is older. To me, I think it looks like it's a wide receiver area. It's a pretty good mix between Adonai and Troy Franklin. Me personally, I do like Mitchell. I place Mitchell in that spot. I think it helps with the youth. I think it gives a nice spot there. A nice guy. Could be a starter, but if not, great taxi squad dude. Again, I think he could be great. 1.12. TDs and double Ds. The amount of need out of every position here is absolutely outrageous. When it comes to this, you just got to take the best guy. It's got to be Troy Franklin. We could probably look at 4 wide receivers going out at the end there with only 4 quarterbacks in the first round. No running back selected. It doesn't really make sense for anyone to take a running back right now, which does leave it a little bit more open going into the second round. We're looking at the second round with having Bo Nix, Michael Penix still available for picks. So realistically, we could still have a quarterback there when it comes down to the needy Bulldogs. Oh, they have traded their pick at 2.2 and at 0.4. So they may have to wait a little bit more, but so it's tougher when doing these with all this breaking news, eh?
It's my quarterback.
We'll see if that team can make a decision on another trade then. But this leaves still a lot of great players. Top 3 running backs. Ladd McConkey, a lot of people have talked a lot about him. I've heard a lot about this Roman Wilson here. Xavier Leggett's fallen down the draft board a little bit. The second best tight end, Jatavian Sanders, is available. So a lot of great pieces here. But for now, that's what I'm going at. We're going at a $1.09. This is what the mock's looking like for me for right now, what I suggest, and without any picks done and before the players have even been drafted. So this will change again. But here it is. First legit rookie mock. Should have done a couple times sooner, but yeah, that's gonna be it for me though. That's an hour. Again, don't worry. You're probably thinking I talked for an hour straight. It was on and off. I pet a cat here and there. I got a coffee, whatever. So, but yeah, enjoy, lads, and we'll see what other outrageous business gets up to before next Thursday, and I will try to do another mock before then. GLHF.